Hello, listener, and welcome to Book 4, Chapter 21 of Bite-Sized Tales, the audio flash fiction podcast. Today, we finish out Book 4 with a bonus chapter. 2 stories, all with a similar theme. We won't tell you what it is, but we'll see if you can find it.
Meet cute in space. Written and read by Wayne Cole. The scout ship I found at first had been docked less than 15 minutes when the call bell went off. Becca had configured the alert to be heard anywhere in the tiny vessel, which meant it was particularly loud by the airlock where she happened to be standing. This caused her to jump, spilling her very hot coffee all across her chest. Gah! Computer, mute the call signal. Acknowledged, came the toneless response over the speaker system. Becca hit the intercom button next to her airlock. Hey, sorry to keep you waiting, but I'll be just a couple more minutes. I need to take care of something. No problem, came the response from the speaker. She grabbed a spare ship suit from the locker just to the right of the airlock. Normally, this was for embargoed goods, but as a scout ship, she had never really found the need to have embargoed goods. Instead, since she had been known to spill or occasionally puke on her ship suit after a night of heavy drinking on the docks, she kept spare suits in the multiple lockers around the ship. Without a second thought, she stripped out of the coffee-stained suit and put on a fresh one. It was only after she was done that she noticed the intercom camera was on. The man on the screen looked to be in his 20s, like her, but his face was blushing a bright red, and he was trying to look anywhere except the screen. Resigned to have this interaction be about as awkward for both of them as it could possibly be, Becca hit the button to cycle the airlock and stepped out onto the docks to meet her unexpected visitor. The smell of disinfectant chemicals assaulted her nose. Most people imagine the docks to be dirty industrial areas, but with ships coming in from so many different planets, the threat of contamination is taken very seriously. At the bottom of the ramp next to the intercom screen stood what Becca now realized was a delivery man. She couldn't help but think that the way he was looking at anything other than her was one of the cutest things she had seen in a long time. Any sense of embarrassment slipped from her mind, but it left her with a bit of a dilemma. She couldn't decide if she wanted to ease his discomfort or find ways to mercilessly toy with him. I've got a package for a Miss Rebecca Lee Chambers. His voice stumbled and sounded unsure as he spoke. It was so quiet with him looking down at the deck that Becca could barely hear him. That's me, only please call me Becca. Only my mom and an ex I'd rather forget would have ever called me Rebecca. And you aren't either of those. She tried to smile, hoping to put him at ease, but he would have to look up at her face to see that. Starting to actually get annoyed, she reached down and touched his chin with 2 fingers, planning on lifting it up. At her touch, Trevor was so startled that he stumbled back and fell on the deck, dropping the package he was supposed to deliver. What is wrong with me? He wondered. Then his eyes met hers, and there was a mirth in them that he had never seen before. Her smile transformed into a look of concern before his eyes. Are you okay? She leaned down and held her hand out to him. I'm fine. Only my pride seems to have taken a bruising. He let her help him stand and then reached down to pick up the package. The corner of the box was dented, and he just hoped the contents weren't damaged. She made a point of looking at his name tag before speaking again. Come on, Trevor. I've had guys fall for me pretty quickly, but this might be a new record. Surely this isn't the first time you've accidentally seen a spacer changing a ship suit. Pretty sure it is. No, wait, there was that one time with Uncle Hank, but trust me, he isn't anywhere near as cute as you are. Trevor chuckled a bit nervously, but internally he was panicking. That came out all wrong. Please don't be offended. Please don't be offended. His inner monologue was screaming, but thankfully Becca started laughing as well. Points for calling me cute, but are they enough points to make up for the awkwardness? She asked herself. Well then, let's get this delivery finished before you get that image of Uncle Hank stuck in your head. Oh, too late. Just need you to sign here that you got the package, he said, holding out a tablet for her. Oh, and warning, whoever sent this didn't pay for shipping, so it's going to charge you 5 credits. Sorry. She touched the pad with her index finger, letting it read the fingerprint as her signature. Once the tablet beeped, he held out the box. Becca took the box and stared at the label for a moment. Trevor watched as her smirk faded and a much more guarded expression came over her face. That bastard. I should have known when you used my full name. Really should have known when he couldn't even bother to pay for delivery. She ripped the box open and pulled out a bouquet of baby's breath flowers. Trevor couldn't help but notice that the flowers looked wilted and dying. There was a tag hanging off of them declaring in big red letters that they were deep frozen clearance. Trevor, has anyone ever sent you an apology bouquet of flowers you hate and then charged you for the privilege of receiving it? No, but I did get a breakup video once that a girl recorded while on a toilet. It was a pretty crappy breakup. That earned him a laugh, and he thought it was the most beautiful sound he had ever heard. This is from Zan. He's that ex that I wanted to forget. King of the grand gestures, as long as they're on clearance. What a moron, Trevor said, surprising both of them with his outburst. I mean, not just for filler flowers and charging you for the delivery. If I did something to lose someone like you, not that I could ever have someone like you, but if I did, I would personally come down here to make it right. Becca felt herself blush for a moment before she could compose herself. Well, Trevor, if there is one thing I enjoy talking about, it's how much of an idiot my ex is, and how great I am. How about when you get off work, you meet me back here, and I'll take you out for a drink. Trevor tried to hold back his excitement to seem cool, but it came out in his tone. I'd love to. Too desperate, he thought. Do you think we could skip the ex talk, though? I'd much rather focus on things that make you smile. Yes, nailed it, he thought to himself. It's a date, Becca said, with a genuine smile. She turned to walk up the ramp, but stopped halfway to look back at him. Strange. The first time a guy has seen me get undressed before the first date. When the lock closed, Trevor finally relaxed. So much better than Uncle Hank. The speaker hissed for a moment before Becca's voice came out. This time you left the intercom on. Author's note. I don't know how I came up with the idea of using the same basic concepts and doing a meet cute as our method of collaboration for this bookend. I do know that I had never heard of the term meet cute before Dot did a story with that name way back in book 1. Just not a concept I'd ever heard of. But for some reason, I decided let's do a meet cute across different genres, mostly because we've been kind of playing with genres in this book. It ended up being a little harder to write than I thought. And the reason for that is because everything I've been writing lately has been so much darker than it used to be. It's just where my head's at. I wanted to put something light and fun out there. Maybe that's why I suggested we do it as a meet cute. It brought me back into a headspace that was difficult to get into, but in the end, I had a lot of fun with this story, and I'd much rather something like this be put out into the world than a lot of the stuff I've been writing lately.
Fake Leads to Real. Written and read by Chris Hussey. Reb was frustrated, incredibly frustrated, the kind of frustration usually reserved for people whose days have been nothing but mistakes or accidents, which is exactly where Reb found herself. The journey to Fort Aspire was fraught with issues for Reb. A trip meant to take 5 days now was on its 8th. She lost an entire day hiding from bandits, another day after falling into a rapidly flowing river and then having to dry off, get warm, and make up lost ground. The third lost day came after getting a rash from something. She still wasn't sure, and it still itched like hell, even after generous application of anti-itch balms and other nature-made treatments. The smoke from dying fires floated lazily in the fall breeze. The smell of burnt wood mixed with that distinctive fall chill. Reb took another moment to survey the scene, making sure to keep her pistol at the ready. The source of the smoke was from the charred, collapsed, and ruined timber palisade that surrounded what remained of Fort Aspire. The interior buildings were also in absolute scorched ruin, with a pair still showing the last flickering of flames. This was not what Reb expected to find, nor did she want to find it. Bodies and debris laid about in a chaotic pattern, like dolls and building blocks strewn by an angry child. Reb easily identified those who were traitors, those who were Fort Aspire soldiers, and those who were the aggressors to the settlement, though it wasn't clear who the aggressors were. Carefully moving through the carnage, Reb made mental notes of items to scavenge. If there was anything she'd learned growing up in the aftermath, it was that everything was to be used until it could be used no more. When it came to an individual's personal items, the only meaning they had now was how they'd be used by whomever acquired the item after you were dead. Now witnessing the carnage, Reb allowed herself to feel a bit blessed by the journey taking as long as it did. It was very likely she would have been here when the attack occurred, caught in the crossfire. She continued moving. The realization that she wasn't going to be able to deliver her gift and message was becoming more real with each step. Even after the end of the world, Reb was one of the few people she knew that she'd considered to be an optimist. She hated the idea of not being able to deliver the message, not only because it was her mission, but also because she knew the importance of the delivery. Moving on and turning her focus to the ramparts on a portion of the upper wall that remained, Reb swore she saw movement. It was in the shadows made from the late afternoon sun, but it was there. Crouching lower and raising her weapon, Reb started to move toward cover, her eyes not moving from that spot. Then she tripped. Her body lurched forward with her legs racing to catch up. She stumbled forward, fighting to stay ahead of the fall. As her arms lent their aid in a wild windmill fashion, her finger accidentally squeezed the trigger. The shot echoed throughout the ruins as Reb won her contest to stay upright. As she regained her faculties, she heard a voice behind her. First, don't even think about moving. And second, that hurt like hell. You kicked me right in the ribs. Reb's hands came up slowly as she turned, letting the gun dangle limply on her fingers. She spoke. Hold on there. Easy. Easy. I'm not even part of the settlement, and absolutely not part of whoever it was who attacked it. Finishing her turn, Reb saw the man she'd kicked in the ribs. He was sitting, one arm bracing him, and the other with a pistol pointed at her. His clothes were covered in dirt and muck, with some dried blood mixed in for good measure. More dried blood covered the side of his face and matted into his messy and dirty black hair. It was the Canton Collective, he said. Reb nodded. She knew enough about the Collective and their militant ways. They were usually more inclined to threaten and steal than trade or negotiate. Those who didn't play along usually found out the hard way that the Collective meant it. Say no more, Reb responded, looking around. Did any of you Asperites get away? The man nodded. A few. I probably would have been with them if it hadn't been for this. He pointed toward his bloody head wound. Yeah, that doesn't look good. I'm sure it's a concussion. Probably two, judging from the pain. He chuckled at his own joke. Reb smiled. Please tell me King Charles made it out. The man shook his head and gestured over toward the far wall. He went down over there. Saw it myself. Damn. Reb started to lower her arms. You mind if I put these down? I don't think that you're going to kill me, and I've no desire to do that to you. Plus, you're not the only one alive here that I've found. Reb gestured with her head back toward where she saw the motion. Someone else is up there. I'm sure it's a sniper. The man looked past her towards the shadows. He smiled. Hardly. I'm pretty sure that's one of our guard dogs. Probably Penny. She's not a particularly good guard dog, but I know that's one of her favorite shady spots. He looked toward the area and then shouted, Penny, heel! It took a moment, but a burnt marshmallow-colored husky lab mix slowly trotted from the shadows, stretched, then carefully navigated the burnt and broken timbers toward the ground. Laughing as she lowered her arms and reholstered her gun, Reb turned to watch the dog. Well, that's comforting, I guess. Turning back towards the man, Reb offered her hand. Need help getting up? I'm Reb, by the way. He grabbed her hand, taking the assistance. Trevor, and thank you. Reb, is that short for something or just a name you liked? Rebecca, and why not both? She took another survey of the decimated settlement. Well, I'm not sure what to do now. I actually came here from Bounty. I had a delivery for the king from our chancellor, Vicky. Trevor frowned. Oh, I'm sorry. Was it important? Reaching into her pack, Reb drew forth a cloth-covered conical bundle. With it came a small, folded piece of paper tied to the cloth with twine. She smiled at Trevor while presenting it. What is it? He asked. Reb met his gaze. A marriage proposal. Trevor cocked his head, looking shocked. What? Reb laughed. Not for you. For the king. From our chancellor. Reb gently removed the cloth to reveal a bright bouquet of flowers. Red roses mixed with daisies, pansies, and asters. It was a stark blast of color to the browns, grays, and muted reds surrounding the pair. Trevor smiled at the display as Reb undid the tie and opened the paper. To King Charles, blah, 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 from Chancellor Vicky, blah, blah, blah. My dearest king, blah, 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 our two settlements benefit, blah, blah, and together we can grow our love, blah, 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 and marry me. Reb paused, then added, or something like that. The language was a bit more formal, but you get the idea. Trevor nodded. I do. His eyes never left the bouquet. Those are beautiful. Reb mirrored his nod. Yeah, I mean, they're absolutely fake, but they are nice. This misery could use a little color, Trevor added as he looked towards Reb, the pair locking eyes. She suddenly felt something inside. Reb wasn't sure what it was, just a small tingle. She tried to identify what it might be, a hunger pang, a sign of illness. She knew it wasn't those. This was different. But as she stared at Trevor and the feeling lingered, the best term she could come up with was a connection. It was then that she realized they both were smiling at each other. She snapped out of her moment as a memory struck her. Oh, I forgot. She also included this. Rummaging further in the bag, Reb pulled out a secured wooden box. She shook it at Trevor and it made a sound like stones rattling. Engagement gift? What is it? Ammo? No. Coffee. Trevor's eyes widened visibly, causing several flakes of dried blood to break free from his wound. Another silence crept between the pair as they looked around the tomb that Fort Aspire had become. The flowers, the coffee chest, and finally each other. This time it was Trevor breaking the silence. Be a shame to waste those beans. Reb nodded slightly, meeting Trevor's eyes. She raised the bouquet. And these flowers. Penny finally sauntered up to the pair, promptly sitting on her haunches and looking back and forth between the pair. Reaching into his own pack, Trevor produced a pair of tin cups. Can I get you a cup? She handed him the box. I'd like that. Author's note. I'm not sure where my story is going to place when the final edit occurs, but you'll obviously see the overriding theme here is meet cute. And there is, of course, another theme that is familiar here, which either you're going to discover or you've already discovered, so I'm not going to bother to elaborate on that. I decided to go with the post-apocalyptic genre for this. I kind of really like the idea of love in the apocalypse. And this just seemed like a good setting to have a very unusual meet cute between the two. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed book 4, and we'll hopefully see you back for book 5. This chapter of Bite-Sized Tales has been brought to you under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives 4.0 International License. Intro and outro music is Fantasy Motion by Alexander Nakarada, provided under a Creative Commons 4.0 license. If you've enjoyed what you've heard today, we greatly appreciate reviews and recommendations to your friends. For more information about our authors, visit bitesizedtales.com or follow us on Instagram at bite_size_tales. We look forward to reading to you next time.